This is Chris Pope with Deeper Roots Spiritual Ministries. So glad you could join me today. We are in creation, starting day 6. Yay! And we're talking about the creatures and living creatures. And, I just visited a farm. Now, I grew up as a city boy. I don't know about you, but I grew up in the city, lived in the city all my life. I've never had to milk a cow, never had to do any of that kind of stuff, raise livestock, butcher animals and stuff like that. I've never done all that. But it was so cool to go down to this farm and to see a working farm. They had chickens there and roosters. They also had goats and sheep. And that was the main reason I went, to see the goats and the sheep. And just, I was amazed by them, how God made them and how God made sheep to stay together, to flock together. And yet goats were very divided. They're very individuals. They do their own thing, their own way, their own direction. It was so cool. So if you ever get an opportunity, if you are like me and grew up in the city and never been exposed to farm life, enjoy visiting a farm in your area. If someone has a farm that's open that you can see and be around creatures and enjoy them and just watch. And if you get, especially with sheep and goats, to be able to go to there and to see the sheep and the goats and to really enjoy it and see the beauty of how God makes things. Again, we're in Genesis chapter 1, verses 24 and 25. And I'll just read another time with this. And it says, "Then God said, let the earth produce living creatures according to their kind, livestock, crawling things, animals on the earth according to their kind. And it was so. And God made the animals of the earth according to their kind, and their livestock according to their kind, and everything that crawls upon the ground according to its kind. And God saw it, and it was good." And so I'm really going to delve into today about their kind, or its kind. And again, we're starting to get into genetic coding, and all animals, everything in the world has genetic coding, whether it's a tree or a plant or whatever. In the background, the design, the blueprint, if you were, of how this plant animal is going to be made, how it's going to come out, how it's going to be this kind of animal. And you see this, and that's again why I'm a creationist. We don't see things going outside of their kind and being able to reproduce outside of their kind. Cats are cats, dogs are dogs. You have different varieties of dogs, yes, different varieties of pets, because we're around them so much and we've domesticated them. We know a lot about them because all of us either had dog or cats in our life or been around people that are dog or cat animals. And they really that they raise cats for pets or animals, and they just enjoy them. And we see the variety of them, and it's really amazing. And again, God created a code, and that code is for all dogs. Remember what kind of dog it is. All dinosaurs, again, what kind of dinosaur it is, what traits they will have, what things that will be the same in each generation, even though you have variables and you have, I believe, a world that is dying and we are de-evolving. We're not evolving. I don't agree with that. I think we have problems. We have, once sin hit the world, and we'll get into that very soon, where we'll deal with sin, comes into the world and it changes everything. It really turns the world upside down from this beautiful Garden of Eden, the way God made it to be, the way his intended purpose was, and really polluted it with sin and changed everything. It made the world radically different, and even mankind became radically different. And we began to see those transitions as sin came into the world and the problems came into the world. But it's beautiful how the animals are amazing. I love seeing the sheep. Like I said, I visited the sheep and I just enjoyed watching them. I enjoyed the goats because the goats were basically, to be honest with you, they were just rude. They would go just headbutt the sheep just because they wanted to. I mean, there was no reason for it. The sheep were minding their own business and staying in their flock group and staying close to each other, and where the goats were just kind of independent, doing whatever they wanted to do, however they wanted to do it, and do it their way. And it's just interesting how God programmed in each group, and yet God compares us to sheep and to goats. That's very beautiful in the book called Choose. That next book that I've written, I really get into the difference and why God chose to name mankind goats and sheeps and little lambs and what all that means. But anyway, let's focus on where we're at. So here are all the cattle of the field. Here are all the dinosaurs. Here are all of creation, and just amazing how to the very smallest creature to the very largest creatures that God had creates, and why He spoke them into existence, and why He wanted them to be the way that they are, and that just it amazes me, and it's very, very beautiful that God did these things, how He did them, and why. And it just amazes me. And I'm so grateful to God that He decided to create it the way He did. Again, science is the study of what God's already done. It studies and says, wow, look at this. Or we get into genetics and we're like, look at genetic coding and how complicated it is. Now, unbelievably complicated it is. Now, it takes massive computers just to understand a genetic code, a blueprint of anything, and just the amazing things how God created it all and how He spoke it all into existence from the smallest to the greatest. And I believe, again, He created all the ground insects when He created this, because there are a lot of insects out there. I mean, there are a lot of insects. There are a lot of different animals all over the world, and how God put them in an area, and He knew they needed certain adaptations to survive in that area, and what was important for them and what was unique for them in that area. And again, when we go to Noah's Ark, and who had to be on Noah's Ark because they couldn't survive underneath the water and they would die. And we see, our oil reserves today. That's how we get our oil reserves, from all the dinosaurs and animals that died, and the way they changed, and it gives us oil. And the balances of life, how God sees into the future and says, okay, you'll need this and you'll need this. This is the way this is going to work. This is what you need here. And God puts it all in place because He's God and He knows what He's doing. He knows every detail. He knows every single thing He's doing. He doesn't have to fix it once it's made. It's made exactly the way it should be made. And it's just so beautiful to me. We talk about plants as just their body. They just have a body. And then we get into animals, and not only do they have a body, but they have a soul. You can tell they have emotions. They have the way they look at things and the way they deal with things and how they figure things out. And I just enjoy watching squirrels. Squirrels amaze me. They're very smart creatures, and as all creatures are, or dogs or whatever, and they figure things out and they look at things and they make decisions they need to make. And it's just amazing the creation that we're in and how it all works together. And it's far beyond just a happenstance, just something that shoulda, coulda, woulda. And again, my main argument when I hear people say that we evolved from everything, the sun only can last just so long before it dies. And we know that. And so when we start getting long periods of time, it doesn't make sense. So I think this earth's only been here 10,000 years. And in this time that we live in, God created it, spoken into existence, and here we are on this planet. As long as God designed this planet to live and the sun to live, we're here until God creates a new heaven and a new earth and perfects it and takes it from, He had the Garden of Eden that He created and the perfect world he created and what He wanted man to be and woman to be and what it looked like, but yet sin entered in, because He gave us a beautiful thing called free will. And in the same way in our own lives, we mess it all up. We mess it up with sin, and God redeems it, though. God takes care of it. God knows all that's going on. He hears the bird when it falls and dies. He knows when the little mouse does what it does. It's amazing. The tortoises, gopher tortoises down in South Georgia especially, and they are in their holes and they make these long holes underneath the ground. And when there's a fire or major problem that's going around, all the animals of the area, the small animals, are able to go into the hole with him, and they're protected there. And how, again, God makes everything to work together exactly the way it's supposed to. And we feel like we need to intervene, and yet God does it. The only time we really need to intervene is when we as mankind mess it up and we get in God's cycle way of what he wants things done and how he put it together. When we mess that up and then we have to go back and fix it is the problem that comes up is the problem of sin and getting in God's way. It's so beautiful what all God has done. And it's beautiful in this that God said, God saw that it was good. And we see often as he creates things, he says there's good. And it's interesting at the end of day 6, when he creates mankind, and we'll get into that next time, it was very good. And that is a deep thing to understand how God would make all this stuff, make all creation, make all these creatures, so they're good. But when man's added to it, that is the finishing touch. That is exactly what he wanted it to be. And it's the perfect world with mankind in it and God being God and God being able to walk with his children and spend time with them and the beauty of that until sin enters in and messes it all up. But I just love God. And again, I want to say thank you for joining me today. I'm Chris Pope. I love you, but God loves you so, so much more. And I'm so grateful for you just being alive and having an opportunity just to know more about God. God bless.